Welcome to How to Be and Do, your space for exploring psychology in ways that help you grow and thrive. Today, we're diving into perfectionism, what it is, how it affects you, and, most importantly, how to overcome it. Perfectionism can feel like a double-edged sword. On the one hand, it pushes you to aim for high standards. But on the other hand, it brings anxiety, procrastination, and self-doubt. We'll dive into why this happens and what you can do to let go of the pressure to be perfect. What is perfectionism? Perfectionism is the relentless drive to achieve flawlessness. Many people believe that being a perfectionist is a good thing, it's seen as a motivator for success. But the truth is, perfectionism is often counterproductive. It sets impossible standards, creating a cycle where we never feel good enough. There are two types of perfectionism, adaptive and maladaptive. Adaptive perfectionism helps you push yourself within healthy limits, setting achievable goals. But maladaptive perfectionism is driven by fear of failure, fear of being judged, fear of not meeting those impossibly high standards. This kind of perfectionism leads to stress, anxiety, and even procrastination. You may be putting off projects, relationships, or decisions because you're scared they won't turn out perfectly. Sound familiar? Let's explore the roots of perfectionism and why it's so hard to overcome. Where does perfectionism come from? Perfectionism often starts in childhood. Research shows that early experiences, like being praised only when you succeed or being criticized for small mistakes, can lead to the belief that you're only valuable if you're perfect. Over time, this mindset becomes ingrained. Ask yourself, did you feel like you were only loved or appreciated when you succeeded? Were you criticized harshly for mistakes? If so, you may have internalized the idea that your worth is tied to achievement. As adults, this mindset doesn't just disappear. Perfectionists hold themselves to unrealistic expectations, often replaying those early feelings of pressure. But here's the thing. Perfection is an illusion. No one achieves it, and trying to chase it only leads to dissatisfaction. The cost of perfectionism is high. Studies show that perfectionism is linked to anxiety, depression, burnout, and even physical health problems. This is because perfectionists are constantly in a state of stress. They're overanalyzing every decision, every action, and never feeling like they've done enough. Here's an example. Imagine you're working on a project. You've spent hours tweaking every detail, but you still feel it's not ready. You worry others will judge you, so you keep working and reworking it. Eventually, you're exhausted and frustrated. Sound familiar? This cycle can lead to procrastination because the pressure to deliver perfection is so overwhelming that you don't start at all. Or it can lead to burnout, where you push yourself so hard that you mentally and physically shut down. Let me share a real-life example. Sarah, a professional with high ambitions, had to prepare an important presentation for her company. She spent days obsessing over the design, reworking the slides, and second-guessing every word. The night before the deadline, she wasn't done. Instead of feeling accomplished, she felt anxious and exhausted. Her perfectionism didn't help her create something amazing. It left her paralyzed, trapped in a loop of overthinking and self-doubt. She eventually submitted an incomplete presentation, feeling defeated. Now, think about your own experiences. How many times have you delayed or avoided something because you feared it wouldn't be perfect? How many opportunities have passed because you didn't feel ready? Take a moment to reflect on how perfectionism shows up in your life. Grab a journal or think about a time when you felt stuck because something wasn't perfect enough. What were you trying to achieve? How did perfectionism hold you back? I want you to consider this. What would happen if you aimed for good enough instead of perfect? How would that change things? How to overcome perfectionism. 5 actionable steps. Now that we've explored the roots and effects of perfectionism, let's focus on solutions. Here are 5 actionable steps you can take today to begin overcoming perfectionism. 1. Embrace good enough. Start by giving yourself permission to aim for good enough. This doesn't mean lowering your standards in everything, just in areas where perfection isn't necessary. For example, if you're writing an email or creating a project, ask yourself, does it need to be perfect, or is good enough actually better? This can be uncomfortable at first because you're used to striving for flawlessness. But learning to settle for good enough in certain areas gives you the freedom to move forward instead of getting stuck. 2. Set realistic goals. Perfectionists often set unrealistic goals, which leads to overwhelm. Break larger tasks into smaller, manageable steps. By doing this, you reduce the anxiety of facing a huge, seemingly impossible task. You'll also feel a sense of accomplishment as you complete each step. Think of a project you're currently working on. How can you break it down into smaller, more achievable pieces? Write down the steps and focus on one at a time. 3. Focus on progress, not perfection. Shift your mindset from perfection to progress. Progress means forward movement, even if it's slow or imperfect. Celebrate small wins and recognize that these are signs of growth. Think about the last time you made progress, even if it wasn't perfect. How did it feel to move forward? Progress is what leads to long-term success, not perfection. 4. Practice self-compassion. Perfectionists are often their own harshest critics. When you fall short, instead of criticizing yourself, practice self-compassion. Remind yourself that mistakes are part of learning, and you are allowed to be imperfect. It's okay to be a work in progress. Next time you find yourself feeling disappointed in your work, pause and ask, would I speak to a friend this way? Why do I hold myself to a harsher standard? 5. Take imperfect action. Taking action, even if it's imperfect, helps you break the cycle of perfectionism. Start small. Write the first draft, submit the project, take the leap. The more you practice taking imperfect action, the easier it becomes to let go of perfectionism. Perfectionism fades when you stop giving it power. Imperfect action gets results. Perfectionism keeps you stuck. The Imperfect Action Challenge. Now, I have a challenge for you. For the next 7 days, I want you to take one imperfect action each day. Whether it's finishing a task that you've been overthinking, sending that email, or starting a project you've been avoiding, take action without aiming for perfection. Keep track of your progress, and at the end of the week, reflect on how it felt to let go of perfectionism. Share your results in the comments or in your journal. This challenge is about building momentum, one step at a time. Inspirational quotes. Here's some inspiration to keep you going on this journey: strive for progress, not perfection. Unknown perfection is the enemy of progress. Winston Churchill: done is better than perfect. Sheryl Sandberg. These quotes serve as reminders that progress, no matter how small, moves you forward. Keep them in mind whenever you feel perfectionism creeping in. Perfectionism can feel like a trap, but by embracing progress, setting realistic goals, and taking imperfect action, you can break free. It's not about being perfect, it's about learning, growing, and moving forward. Let us know in the comments how perfectionism has affected your life. What's one imperfect action you'll take today? And don't forget to subscribe for more videos like this one. In our next video, we'll dive into overcoming procrastination, another side effect of perfectionism.